Coco, you want to be in it? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you 8 stupid reasons to not buy a rabbit. I want to preface this video by saying any reason for not wanting to get a pet is a completely valid reason. You are no way forced to buy a rabbit if you don't want one, but if these are some of the reasons that you've been holding yourself back from getting a rabbit and you've really wanted one, hopefully this can offer you an alternate perspective. I know in the pet tube world, it's very common to discourage people from buying pets, especially for kids, but I think that's a pretty terrible mindset to have. In my opinion, all of y'all watching this video right now are going to be the best rabbit owners because you're the ones taking time from your day to actually do research and care for them properly, and I think a lot of you would actually be really great rabbit owners. So here are a couple stupid reasons why you shouldn't get a rabbit. The first one is that you're going to college. I hear so often that people don't want to buy a pet because they're going to college in the next couple of years. I know this is a situation for me when I was in high school, and don't get me wrong, owning pets in high school, college, and I'm sure after college is extremely difficult. That period of your life, I would say 15 to 25, you're going through so many life changes. You're likely going from being a kid living in your parents' house to potentially a married adult, even kids. You never know. A lot of things happen in that 10-year range. However, I think not getting a rabbit just because you're going to college is a little bit stupid. For one, I think owning pets in college is definitely possible. I think a lot of people are under the mindset that as soon as they go off to college, they have to rehome any and all of their pets. However, now there's a lot of dorms that are actually pet friendly and will allow you to have one pet or even two in your dorm. Also, off-campus housing is definitely an option. Also, the last few years of high school are extremely draining, not just emotionally and physically, but it's also a time of a lot of personal growth. And I think having a pet can do wonders in ensuring that you stay grounded and maintain good emotional and physical health. If you are going to college but you know you'll have to be rehoming your pets as soon as you go, you can always foster rabbits. You might be able to foster one rabbit for the entire time, or you might even be able to foster multiple, which I think would be super. You can also adopt senior rabbits. Rabbits themselves do live 8 to 12 years, but senior rabbits are obviously not going to live that. And honestly, senior rabbits are some of the sweetest rabbits, and they often don't get adopted because a 7-year rabbit is usually very off-putting. But if you're someone going to college in the next few years, I think this can be a great option for you. The second terrible reason for not getting a pet is that you have a smaller space. Don't get me wrong, rabbits need a ton of space, but compared to something like a dog or a cat, rabbits are actually very well suited to apartment living, and a small space for you can still be a massive space for them. If you live in a very tight space and you don't have room for a rabbit cage, you could always consider free roaming. I feel like this would be such an ideal situation because smaller spaces are a lot easier to rabbit proof and keep clean, and to just supervise and making sure that your rabbit isn't getting into stuff. Also, again, compared to something like a cat or a dog, rabbits do really good in small spaces. They don't tend to mind clutter, they're very agile, and it's very easy to make the most of a space for your rabbit. Even something like a closet, if you can empty it out and have that be their home base and add in some shelves, that's something that can be a ton of space for them. Another terrible reason to not buy a rabbit is that you have children or are expecting children. Even though rabbits are not the best children's pet, they usually don't enjoy being held, and they just come with more responsibilities than most children can take on. I think a child growing up with a rabbit can be great for both the rabbit and the child. Rabbits are a lot more intelligent and adaptable than people give them credit for. There are a lot of rabbits who are ordinarily pretty sassy, but they're the sweetest thing when it comes to kids. You do obviously have to set strong limits. There's certain things that children shouldn't be allowed to do to the rabbit simply because it's a safety hazard. But if you yourself are very interested in rabbits and you're willing to supervise the interaction and ensure that everything is safe for both the rabbit and the child, I think it'd be such a beautiful relationship. In fact, for me personally, I would be much more keen for my children growing up with rabbits than I would with dogs, because dogs are very tolerant, and I feel like rabbits, you really have to work at building a strong relationship and building a lot of trust, and I feel like they're really great for teaching children boundaries. Also, if you have kids that you know would just be terrible with the rabbit and just roughhouse them, it's very easy to keep the rabbit in a separated space. Rabbits can do very good as free roam rabbits, but if that doesn't fit your lifestyle, it's very easy to dedicate a room or a closet or just an area to have a very secured pen that your kids can't get into, and have the rabbit separated for the most time, and you can interact with them personally. And again, I think you'd be surprised at how smart kids are. We teach dance, and some of the most rowdy, rambunctious kids are so calm and sweet with the rabbits. They might surprise you. Another terrible reason for not getting a rabbit is that you don't have a rabbit savvy vet. Now, if you actually don't have a rabbit savvy vet, please don't get a rabbit. But I think a lot of people assume that their area doesn't have an exotic vet or a rabbit savvy vet without actually checking. if you have a rabbit rescue in your area, you likely do have a vet that's comfortable with rabbits. I would call your rescue and see what vets they're using, and you'd be surprised how many exotic vets most places have. A lot of the times, these are just smaller businesses and they don't seem to be advertising as well. I know we have a couple exotic vets just like in a 5-mile radius of my house, and I'd never heard of them before. So it can be a little bit obsolete to find the information, but I highly doubt that you don't have a single exotic or rabbit savvy vet, especially if you live in a city and especially if you have a rabbit rescue. The fifth stupid reason for not getting a rabbit is that you don't make enough money. I think especially on YouTube, there's kind of this inflated self of exactly what a rabbit needs and how much they cost to own. I know a lot of people on here are spending hundreds of dollars every month to take care of their rabbits, and if you have the money to spend, your rabbits will absolutely thrive. But if you're someone like me who only makes a few $1,000s every year and you don't have hundreds of dollars to spend every month on your rabbit, they also, again, adapt just fine. These guys are extremely adaptable and they're really not that expensive. In terms of diet, 80 to 90% is hay, and hay, if you're sourcing it in bulk, is so affordable. Also, there's a lot of smart tricks you can do to save money. Rabbit items don't really have to be that specialty. Rabbit items compared to something like sugar gliders are really not that difficult to find. A lot of things in pet stores marketed towards dogs and cats actually work really well for rabbits, and there's tons of really cool DIYs you can make for them for super cheap. If I'm being honest, I think my rabbits are probably some of my cheapest pets to care for month for month. The caveat to this is that initially rabbits are quite expensive just because you're buying a lot of things. A lot of these things do end up being reusable, so you're not rebuying them every month. But initially, I would say you have at least around $400 to $500 set aside. Also, if rabbits do get sick, it's extremely expensive, so make sure you have at least $1,000 budgeted for the vet. Now, if you're hearing those numbers and you think that's absolutely crazy and there's no way you can afford that, there's still hope. You can always foster a rabbit. When you foster a rabbit, every situation is slightly different, but for the most part, your foster or rescue organization is going to cover all the expenses of the rabbit. Not only initially when you get the rabbit, they'll likely give you playpens, litter boxes, toys, and everything like that. There's often also a budget where you can rebuy certain things and they'll reimburse that. And also any medical complications or health issues, they have a vet and they're going to usually pay for everything. Again, it varies organization to organization, so make sure you check up on that. But for the most part, if you're fostering a rabbit, it's practically completely free except for your time. Another terrible reason for not getting a rabbit is that you can only have one rabbit. I've made tons of videos in the past talking about why it's so important that rabbits are in bonded pairs, and I firmly believe that rabbits thrive most when they have a bonded companion. As close as they can bond with people, I don't think that's the equivalent of them having a 24/7 same species companion. However, if you're in a situation for whatever reason that you can only buy one rabbit, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. My perspective is that it's better to adopt one rabbit from the shelter than adopt none of them. If you're in a situation where your parents are very strict, or maybe the place you live has a super strong one pet policy, then you can adopt a rabbit. My tip would be to go to a shelter and see if there's a single rabbit that really doesn't do well with other rabbits. So that way you have a rabbit that you're not necessarily preventing from being in a bonded companion because they likely wouldn't enjoy it anyways. Also, I do want to add, I haven't really heard a lot of good reasons for people only buying one rabbit. I think a lot of people assume that having two rabbits is going to be double the work and double the cost. A lot of the things they have, they can share, so it's not like you need two of everything. It is double the hay and double the veggies and double the pellets, but food is one of the least expensive things when it comes to rabbits, so you're really not going to be spending that much extra. Also, again, if you're buying your hay in bulk, having more rabbits can actually be cheaper. I know when I had just Sachin, it didn't make sense for me to be buying 15 boxes of hay, so I was getting it from the pet store and I was spending more money than I'm spending now with two rabbits. Also, when I had a single rabbit for around 2 years, I was spending so much money on toys and my rabbit was so destructive, it was so hard to even let him free roam without him getting into something that he wasn't supposed to, and having him in a bonded pair has helped a ton with that. Rabbits are way less destructive when they have a buddy because it's kind of like a permanent toy and a permanent playmate. But in short, if you're in some type of situation where you can really only get one rabbit, I still think you should get a rabbit because there are so many dumped in shelters. I think rabbits are the third most abandoned animal in the entire world, so they do need homes. Again, if you are able to adopt a bonded pair, that's what I strongly advocate for. But again, one rabbit adopted is better than none. The seventh terrible reason for not getting a rabbit is that you're busy. I hear this one all the time, and people think that they're too busy to get a rabbit. But again, compared to something like a dog, or a cat, I think rabbits are very low maintenance. Rabbits, again, are super adaptable. I think one of the best things about rabbits is the fact that they're crepuscular. So they're most awake during dawn and dusk, and midday while you're at work or school, they'll likely be napping. Also, again, rabbits are so adaptable, and in order to spend time with you, they don't mind changing up their sleep schedule a little bit. I think also if you have a bonded pair, people kind of overestimate their importance in a rabbit's life. For example, my rabbits love me and they love spending time with me, but they're not depressed if I'm really busy in finals for 1 week or if I'm doing a ton of homework because they have each other. All of their social needs and enrichment and everything like that is met through each other and their housing. And if you're busy all the time, your rabbits will definitely adapt to that. Obviously, it's probably more ideal that you can spend more time with your rabbit and you're going to enjoy them a lot more. But again, rabbits do live 8 to 10 years, and there's bound to be a couple years during that where you're just extremely busy and maybe can't give them as much attention as you'd like to. But I still think that it's a pretty bad reason to not buy a rabbit, and you should consider one. And again, compared to something like dogs, they don't need to be walked outside or anything like that. They do really well if you just want to play with them for a couple of hours during midnight. Also, I think if you are someone who is living a very busy lifestyle, I think having a pet can be extremely beneficial in ensuring that you are taking care of yourself. I think it can be very grounding. Like if you don't get a promotion at work and you feel like the world is ending, being able to come home to an animal that still loves you unconditionally and wants to spend time with you, I think is great. Again, rabbits are very emotionally intelligent, and if you're going through a difficult time, they'll definitely perceive that and they'll come up and give you cuddles and kisses. And also, I think having pets, it forces you to have some amount of routine. It forces you to go out when you need to replace their food or toys, or just wake up to clean their water and things like that. So I do think that getting that can be a really good thing. The eighth terrible reason to not get a rabbit is that you hate bad smells. Now, I think with owning any animal, there comes a certain amount of smells. A home that has animals is not ever going to smell exactly like a home that doesn't have animals. However, again, compared to something like a dog, I think rabbits have very low odor. Excuse me, mister? Rabbits themselves are completely odorless. They clean themselves multiple times a day, and they're likely going to smell better than you do. So they have zero smell. Their poop is also completely odorless, which is a really nice change compared to something like a cat or a dog. Their pee does have a slight smell, especially before you get them neutered. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad. For me, it smells a little bit pungent. Is kind of how I would describe it. But if you have a high quality litter and you're changing the litter box often, I honestly don't think you'll smell anything at all. I do think the one area where rabbits can smell is their hay, and it's actually not a bad smell. It's a very fresh smell. Some people say it reminds them a little bit like a farm. Timothy hay especially has a little bit more of like a farm fresh grass smell. It's a pretty unique smell that I know a lot of people, including myself, actually really enjoy. But there's a ton of different hay brands you can use, and if you're using something like orchard grass, it basically has no smell to it. So for someone who typically doesn't like smells, I feel like rabbits would actually be really good. I've heard a lot of people say that rabbits are a lot cleaner than even their cats. And the last terrible reason to not get a rabbit is mental health. Now, I think mental health is probably one of the biggest and deepest issues on here, and every situation is so different. I think the fact that we're willing to admit every part of the body can break except for the brain, which is the most complex, is so ironic and sad. But I do know that mental health is a very real issue that a lot of y'all are going through. And again, I don't know specifically what you're going through because everyone's circumstance is so unique. But if you're someone who just feels like they don't have the best mental health and aren't prepared to get a rabbit, I would recommend that you reconsider. Again, I think pets in general can do loads for improving and helping your mental health. Also, I think rabbits are so emotionally intelligent, and I know my rabbits definitely can sense when I've been crying or when I've been really sad, and they're really great at calming me down. I also think something like opposed to a dog, they're just very calming, they're very slow moving, they're beautiful to look at. So I feel like they can help a lot of people with a lot of different mental health conditions. In fact, I feel like rabbits would be way better therapy animals. Excuse me. I feel like rabbits would be way better therapy animals than something like a dog even. But yeah, I feel like rabbits would just be really great for helping with a lot of different mental health issues. However, the next part to this video is going to be good reasons for not getting a pet, and I also have mental health on there as well, so be sure to watch that if you kind of want the other side to this. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know what were some of the reasons that prevented you from getting a rabbit, and if the end you decided to get a rabbit or you decided not to. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye!